In this video, we're going to try to cover everything that you need to know about APRS and UIView in the hospital environment and how to send messages back and forth, as well as watch traffic go by on a daily basis. So when you arrive to the hospital installation, you should expect to see something like we see here in the background, a laptop or a desktop that's provided by the hospital, running UIView, connected to the TNC, and also connected to the internet. So the hospital does need to provide the laptop or the desktop. They need to provide internet access, and it needs to have port 14580 open. The laptop or desktop also needs to have a serial port, which in this day and age is no easy trick. So any type of USB dongle to serial port will usually work. See the website for a few candidates that we know work well. The operating system on the computer isn't as important. It'll run with XP, it'll run with Windows 7 or Windows 8, so we're fairly flexible on the OS. You also need a serial cable between the computer and the TNC, and that's a 9-pin on one end and a 25-pin on the other. Installation of UIView isn't difficult, but there are 5 key steps to follow in order to make sure you do it successfully. The most important step is step 1, and that is the instructions. You want to open those instructions, print them out, and keep them with you so that you can walk through them step by step and check them off as you execute each step. There are a couple of steps that are not intuitive, and you really need to pay attention to the path where you're installing software. But those instructions have the exact information you need to be successful. So in 5 steps in about 30 minutes or less, you should be able to install UIView on any hospital XP, Windows 7, or Windows 8 computer. Once you've installed UIView, you have to configure the program internally. You do that by going to the Setup menu. Under Setup, you'll find the first step is Comms Setup. The standard baud rate for KC Hart TNCs is 4800. So you'll set that here in the baud rate window. The COM port setting will depend on where your USB dongle installed itself. Ours is on COM1. And lastly, you set the TNC type, which for us will be the KC Hart KPC3 TNC type. It's configured to make everything work perfectly between UIView and the Kantronics TNC. Then you hit OK. Now that your TNC is talking to UIView, you can go in and do the station setup. That's where you put the call sign, as well as the email and trustee call sign here in the beacon. The call sign for hospitals should be their tactical call sign. For KU Med, for example, it should be KU MED. For St. Mary's, it would be STM. That goes in the call sign in the upper left-hand window. Then you put your email address and actual call sign in the beacon comment. In this example, I can put my call sign and my email address here. Once that's configured, you'll want to choose the correct symbol for the hospital, which is hospital. Then you can click OK. Once your TNC and station setup have been configured, you can go into the APRS server setup. This is where you enter the validation number for the tactical call sign entered in the call sign box in the station setup. If you don't have a validation number for your tactical call sign, contact the KC Hart APRS administrator. Validation number goes in this box, and then you can hit OK. Now that you have those 3 configuration items configured, you'll be able to see traffic coming across the radio as well as across the internet. If you're not already connected to the internet, you can go to Actions and connect to APRS server to connect, and you should see 6 green boxes at the top of the screen once you do that. You'll also see a lot of text scrolling by showing you all the stations that are coming through. As you then zoom out on the map, you'll start to see all those stations populate in the window. Now that you've configured UIView for everyday usage, you need to know how to use it in a disaster or a drill. You might be required to send bedpoll information or the status of the ER out to hospitals throughout the Kansas City area. You do that in the Station Setup box. Go to Setup, Station Setup. You put the bedpoll information in the beacon comment by indicating the number of beds at the different levels, followed by the last number indicating what time the information is accurate for. You also can indicate the status of the emergency room by changing the symbol from hospital to a numbered circle. 1 through 6 are valid numbers for hospital ER statuses. Once you're happy with your bed poll and ER status information, just hit OK, and the information immediately goes out to the metro area. UIView has a ton of different features that could be useful to hospitals. One of those is the object editor. If you need to track resources in the field or understand where a particular incident is occurring, it's easy to create an object so you can let not only your internal staff, but also anyone who's running APRS throughout the metro and throughout the nation as well, see what's going on. In order to add an asset to the map, all you have to do is click on the map and hit F5. You can then name the asset and put a comment about it. You can also change the symbol. So we can track vehicles, people, water trucks, what have you. UIView can also be used to send messages. You do that on the messages window. When it comes up, you have a couple of pieces of information that you need to put in to be able to send the message. You put the station name that you want to send the message to. You can add whether or not you're going to use digis to get the message there, and then you put the text of the message. You can send messages to individual stations, or to groups, or to email. To send a message to a group, simply put the group name in the to box. For KC Heart, the standard group name is KC Heart. If you want to send an email, even though the internet might be out, put in email-to in the to box, and in the text, put the email address of the person the email is going to. Then you can add the message text, up to 45 characters. If the message sends successfully, you'll get a confirmation from individual stations as well as from the email station. You will not get a confirmation from the group message. If this is the first time you've had the TNC installed at a hospital, you may have to configure the TNC as well. So we'll give you some detailed configuration steps to help you get started. If you're using Windows XP, you'll want to use Hyperterm. If you're not using Windows XP, you're going to be on your own to figure out what terminal program you like. Real Terminal is one that's available for free and is quite easy to use. Whatever terminal program you use, 4800 baud is the main thing to know, as well as your COM port, again, based on where your USB dongle decided to install itself. If you know the COM port and 4800 baud, you'll be all set to configure the TNC. If this is your first time configuring the TNC, your safest bet is to reset it to default. If you have communications with the TNC through the terminal program, the easiest way to do that is type the word restore space D and hit enter. That will set the TNC back to its factory default, and we can put all the settings in and know that they'll be accurate. TNC configuration settings are stored on the KC Heart website.